something that Darren Allman and this coaching staff have been to back in 2009. They knew this group was special. Not really one big player, certainly no Division I talented type of players with Westlake, but when it comes down to it, you had 22 guys, and of course you include the 11 on special teams, but really an entire roster of guys that came together for one common goal and really pooled their talent sources and played very, very well. And I think it speaks to what we've alluded to, is just how amazing it is for a group of players to come together and do what they did today. Not only this season, but do what they did today, down 14 with 9 minutes to play.
Yeah, it's a star-less team, and that is really, I mean that in the best way possible. It just such a team, and every player is, contributes to really one of the gutsiest teams I've ever seen in terms of Westlake. A lot of heart for that football team and a heck of an effort today. We've seen it all playoffs, and the ability to come back from down 14 points. You saw why Coach Allman was emotional, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's probably never been prouder of a group of young men than he was of this team and the way they fought all season long, and especially today.
Well, you think about all the gentlemen that are involved with this particular program from a senior perspective. Of course, we go down the roster with Derek Cohen and Alec Cohen, what plays that those guys made, not only today, but Alec with a quarterback sack late in the ball game to really force the 3rd and 11. And of course, as we go down the roster, the 1,000-yard the receiving yards for Brandon Box. What an amazing senior season for him as well. John Dodd, after 2 years starting in this defensive backfield, he has been quite the surprise and quite a heck of a player as well, playing alongside Jack Meredith. As we go down the roster, Michael Barton, he's really the only Division I player. We talk about Division I talent. Well, it's your kicker and punter that's verbally committed to Air Force at the Division I level. And that's saying something, John, when you have an opportunity to really put this season in perspective, a ragtag group of guys really coming together. You had 2 sophomores starting the majority of the season, inside linebackers, and really just going down the list of all the seniors. And this is something that we do at the end of every broadcast as we conclude the season. So bear with us just a little bit as we get an opportunity to list off the seniors here on this roster. But we mentioned Michael Barton, of course, Ashton Drenner, and Brendan Cox, who had the touchdown catch earlier this season, something he'll remember. Guys like Christian Bartley, again, career JV guys who get an opportunity to be backups and bit role players here. And you look at Carson Spencer, what an amazing job he did last week. Carson Spencer comes into the ball game to spell what we thought at that point was going to be an injured Bennett Huddleston. They come right at him, and Carson Spencer makes the play. He's actually had 3 interceptions to lead the club until last week when Derek Cohen got his 3rd interception and John Dodd got his 3rd interception. So Carson Spencer did all of that in the regular season. Of course, Keith Carter. Keith Carter last year playing a backup role to one of Westlake's most electric offensive players. And you talk about just what this team was last year with a guy like Bryce Dozal. It was Keith Carter that came in as a junior and really showed us what he could be. Chris Canner, and I don't think we would be remiss to not mention the efforts of Chris Canner, just a guy that has really come on, and at least in the last few weeks, to be an emotional leader on this team and a physical player at that, John.
Yeah, and you just hope with these seniors that the juniors, the sophomores, and the freshmen that have had a chance to watch this team and watch these seniors, you hope they can emulate them, because they were truly the greatest example that those classes could have had. And hopefully the junior class next year is just as good and just as inspiring for the rest of the players on the team.
Canyon Mansky is another senior. You're talking about guys, and we're not going that far off the roster and off the 2 deep, folks. You're talking about guys that play. And that's really what we want to get across here is in our waning moments as a broadcast crew here, at least for the television broadcast. And hats off to Cedar Hill. What an amazing comeback that they were able to put forth in that final drive to get themselves in a position for the 42-yard, what wound up being the game-winning field goal to defeat Westlake 31-28. But as we look down the list of seniors, Grayson Cook, Dalton Brown, what an amazing story. Dalton in all points really to miracles. And you want to talk about miraculous and you want to talk about perspective. Certainly yesterday's events in Connecticut remind us of that. But how about a guy like Dalton Brown, who got an infection, and it was really infectious disease that almost killed him. And for him to be even to come back and be a part of this team and be on the special teams, he shouldn't even be playing football, and some doctors would argue that he shouldn't even be here. So that's the kind of effort that the guys like Dalton Brown give to this program. Of course, Noah Thompson, all of his accolades with the fishing endeavors, he still comes back and finds a way to be an impact player. Elliot Condos, of course, we know how his senior season ended with injury. You hate to see that, but he was still a vocal majority as far as a power on this team. Russell Pape, we're never going to forget his touchdown catch, a 65-yard catch in Midlothian, which would really cap his senior season. Just an amazing opportunity. Jacob Mansour moving from inside linebacker to nose guard, and to draw from his wrestling ability and how he could maneuver his way, being an undersized nose guard at 225 pounds, taking on big 280, 300-pound guys, is really the heart and soul of the defense.
Yeah, Mansour, I mean, he's one of the guys that when he moved down to the inside, that really turned this defense around. Not that they were struggling by any means, but it really let them step up a notch. And the speed on the defensive front by all the guys, but especially Jacob Mansour, really attributed to just the great defensive play late in the season.
Yeah, Duncan Brown, another contributor on special teams, and Brandon Irick, another outside linebacker that has provided fireworks. Michael Edwards getting an opportunity to start in place of Brecken Hager in the Austin High game, and he would go on a remarkable 5-game tear as he really stepped up on the inside with Brecken's absence, and he really made a name for himself as well. Mason Pitts, of course, the backup nose tackle. And when you're talking about backups, all of these guys get an opportunity to be on a rotation, and Mason Pitts really caused fits for a lot of people, along with Justin Miller, who got in there on that 5-man rotation on the defensive line all season long. And, of course, Austin Carrasquillo, Karsten Hood. What an amazing year Karsten had in his senior season, leading the team in sacks. And when you think about it from the standpoint of Justin Miller, along with Mason Pitts, Karsten Hood, Anthony Patino, all of those guys in the front seven for Westlake, there's about 13 or 14 of them, and the list really goes on and on with just how much of an impact they would have. Zach Price, Skylar Curtis, Taylor Works along the offensive line, William Coleman, a backup offensive lineman that got an opportunity to play, Chad Vonderau, a senior that's really just worked for yeoman-type effort and really just worked to get on the field. He's another one of those career JV guys that gets an opportunity to go up in practice and challenge the Westlake defense to make them as good as they are. You look at Judge Finley, the senior offensive lineman who had a touchdown in the second round of the playoffs right here at Waco ISD. What a memory for him, and what a fantastic season. And rounding out the list of seniors, when you look at Garrett Willis, that was his last ball game along with Christian Falken. And when you think about it, John, all in all, just a collection of guys who executed well and played well for 15 games. They were never really out of any ball game they ever played, but they learned from their mistakes. They grew together, and this is a wonderful legacy. We talked last year at the end of the Klein Oak game just what a legacy that guys like Lance Duran would leave for the next group here, and this was a special group indeed. Final thoughts?
Yeah, just, the last few games of the season have really been magical for the Westlake Chaparrals, and you just think about just the heart that they showed, and it was a heck of a run. I know that we were fortunate enough to be able to cover the games. The coaches were fortunate enough to be able to coach those kids, and the underclassmen were fortunate enough to be able to play with such a great senior class.